Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Rodney, how are you? Are you having fun yet?
I'm
He's
always having fun.
he's coming in hot, man. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee, and I am with my best bud Rodney Wilds, who is a lender with First Trust, good company. Trust me on that. Also in Williamson County, and we are here to just share our opinions on things and answer questions if you have some. If you're looking for answers for things that we talk about or anything else, you can text, call, or email us. You can find that in the comment section below, descriptions, whatever. It's easy to find. So I think it's good to see you. Did you have a good weekend? Do anything special?
Yes, my Chubbs was at the, I think last time we did it, I was in the motel room up there where my son was playing a state AM. So we had a great week at state AM. He finished 29th. Really good
Excellent.
going for him. Yeah. So yeah, just a little weekend of golf and back at it, back at
Man,
work with this
that's
100-degree heat in Tennessee.
yeah, that's just, and
The
I'm
heat
not.
though, it's killed the cicadas.
I tell you, when I first moved here back in 2005, I moved in from Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's literally higher than Denver. It was like 7,000 feet, something like that, 6,400. And when I first moved here, I thought I loved everything except the summer heat. I just didn't think I was going to be able to make it. But after all these years, you do get used to it. You do.
You do.
You do get used to it. The older I get, the more I like the heat. Is that like a snowbird thing? Is that what that is?
Yes. You have to get older because
That's
nobody can stand this 100 degrees with all this humidity.
your circulation's getting bad, and I'm gonna make an adjustment here. Good. You know what we're gonna talk about? You know what we're gonna talk about right now? Here we go.
I
Rodney's
got it.
rates. Uh-oh. Bing. Publish. Okay, here we go. With a pip. Ding. Pip comes up. There it is. Hit
Well,
me.
as you can see here, man, this
Jeez.
is a 6-month view from
Oh,
2023, the end of 23 through June. That's wild looking, isn't it? I
I'm
mean,
telling you. Jeez.
it's
Oh.
the good news is it's I think the bankrate.com or something just clicked under 7% for like an average of all 30-year fixed mortgages. So that over the last over the last week or so since June 11th, anyways, positive days than worse days. The green is good and red is bad. So when it actually goes up on this chart, your rates are getting better. So green is good, red is bad. The higher mortgage rates will be. So that's where we are. It's how can you say it? Inconsistent, consistent?
Well, but it's we've been saying this for months now that at least I believe that the case for the human element, for people, is consistency. Even if it's consistently bad or consistently higher than what we're used to, people can I guess you would call it normalize it, and that's what in today's show is going to be a little bit all over the map, but it's based on the idea that when people get used to things, you're just trying to get comfortable with it. But when they start whipping around, everybody locks up, and indecision causes no decisions at all, right? You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
So, and I've got an article here for just you that I don't know anything about, and I know you'll cover it. Is the zero down mortgages? So we're going to talk about housing competition, zero down mortgages, and about baby boomers, how people have been saying, you guys had it easy. Well, maybe not.
I love that. I love a little drama competition between generationals.
Yeah, yeah, we can
If
take it
TikTok
out
can do
back.
shirt, if TikTok can do shirts, we can talk about it, can't we?
That's yes, they can. That's right. Okay, so let's start out with why there's competition in the housing market is cooling off, and here's why. Now, the first thing I'll say is the the direction they're coming from is from the buyer's perspective. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I mean, because when they're talking about competition, it's heating up for sellers. That's the opposite. So, did you have any initial thoughts on this before I kind of tear into it a
No,
little bit?
I actually like the article. Yeah, no, jump in.
Okay, more homeowners are listing their home for sale, but properties are taking longer to sell. I have personal experience with that. It is taking a little bit longer. Hi, Angie. Welcome from California on our left side, the left coast. Angie, glad you're here. Little heat never hurt anybody. Sorry, just catching up.
Yeah,
Yeah, unless you're
she
in
can
it.
say that. She's in the land of sun.
The land of milk and honey. Oh, man. So new listings from home sellers have jumped 13% from a year ago. That is a huge jump. You have to increase. You have an increase in sellers coming back on the market. These are people from Zillow. Again, as a company, I have a lot of respect for these guys. You know, some of the big ones out there, won't need to mention them, but Zillow in particular, what they're really, really good at, in my opinion, is data. They're just really good with that. And so I have a lot of respect for that. Use them for a lot of research. But with buyers not, so we've got more listings. We've got buyers not returning to the market as quickly as we want. They're there, but not as fast as we want. Many new listings are just adding to the inventory. The number of homes on the market rose 22% compared to last year. Homes are staying on the market for a little bit longer because the sales are not keeping up with the flow of homes coming on the market. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is I love seeing the inventory creep up, and the inventory is huge. Now, it's all in a little bit of perspective that it's still millions away from pre-pandemic levels, right? But
Mm.
I will say the the problem you're still facing is affordability, right? And so that's why we're seeing an increase, and they're not flying off the shelf. Is that although it's a little bit more stable, 7% is still putting it to unaffordable ranges for a lot of these home buyers, and it's slowing their purchase. It's keeping them out of the market, so to speak.
Yep, yeah. And then we had Jay make his pronouncements last week from the Fed, and they're clearly indicating there's only going to be one cut. I think that you would agree with that. That's what they seem to be signaling, right? And I mean, there's a lot of people, and understandably so, that they're waiting for those guys to make a decision on that cut. I mean, everybody wants to save a little bit of money if that in fact would cause that, which generally it does. Um, but so that's holding a lot of people off the market as well. But let's go into a couple of other numbers. The market is slowing down. This is just evidence of it. I'm going to show you some stuff from Redfin in a second too. Another really great data company, in my opinion. Almost 2/3, or 61%, of homes listed on the market in May had been for sale for at least 30 days without going under contract. In the past, that was not happening. I mean, it's in some cases it was, but that was
Right.
not the average. It was at least around here, and I think across the country, because everybody was talking about it. Some get listed and be under contract over a weekend. I remember I had sellers a year ago that we listed their house, and it was Friday, and they were calling Sunday, how come it hadn't sold yet? You know, it's like because times have changed. That's why. Um, about 40% of homes that were for sale in May had been listed for 2 months without going under contract, Redfin found. The market is slowing down. Homes are taking longer to sell, and that allows inventory to accumulate in the market. And that's what's going on. Yet, despite the recent jump in supply, we're still starved for inventory, just like what you were saying, in the for sale market. The housing inventory in the U.S. is still 34% 34% below pre-pandemic levels. And what is it? I think there's 1.7 million currently for sale. 1.7, 1.8, something like that. 34% below. We're short nationwide about 4.3 million homes. So we're still in a housing unit deficit. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, it's I know it's a positive thing. This is really, honestly, I think this is a really good sign. We have houses to our biggest challenge right now is affordability issues, housing prices and rates, economy, inflation. Everything is kind of bundled together to create this housing. Um, it's more of your daily paycheck right now than it has been in the past. Right now, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
So, when the house is inventory, that's when all those crazy offers and all that stuff goes away. It's like now you're sitting on the market for 60 days. Sellers are thinking, yeah, I hadn't had a buyer. They're not going to say, well, send me your best offer by 9 o'clock Tuesday. You know, We're going to be negotiating that deal, and which is in turn going to help the affordability issue a little bit. More inventory, and of course, we got to have at some point in time, we're going to have some better rates to move people off the shelf to purchase. But right now, the inventory is going to help us. Like we can't have good rates without inventory, so this has got to happen. This is good news.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it is good. Daryl Fairweather, she's an executive with Zillow as well, I believe, who she is. But she said, while mortgage rates could change pretty quickly, and we've seen that. I mean, we were just looking at your chart, and I'm not saying it's all over the map, but they can change quickly. Buyers are unlikely to see big movements in the near term, and that's what everybody's kind of. It seems like everybody's holding their breath, at least the housing market, with the Fed, with the rates. Again, I'll say again, it doesn't affect it directly, but indirectly it generally does. Clearly, they're going to hold numbers steady. There's no right answers. This chick is really smart. Sorry, that's disrespectful. This lady is really smart. There's no right answer for home buyers who are deciding whether to wait or not. It's just up to chance when mortgage rates drop. Isn't that interesting? Nobody really knows when that'll happen, so it's hard to plan your life around that. I think that is interesting coming from somebody who is an economist.
Yes. Yeah.
She's saying, we really don't know. you know,
it's just hard to plan like she said, if first of all, if you're planning your life around an interest rate, you're not planning, you're just reacting to whatever the market is. But I don't think a lot of people do that. I think people take advantage of the market versus planning for it. But
yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's like right now, it's just not feasible for a lot of people to buy and sell right now, So
it's just not. Here's some really interesting numbers. Some markets in the U.S. are seeing significant increase in unsold inventory. Dallas, Texas. I mean, that's hot down there. I mean, that's Dallas and Austin. Those places, they're just. There's a lot of houses moved down there, but 60% of listings in Dallas stayed on the market for at least 30 days, up 53% from a year earlier. 53%. That's significant. That's according to Redfin.
Yes.
In Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the share of unsold listings that has stayed on the market for at least 30 days is 75%, up from 68%. That's a lot. Now, Florida's got other stuff going on, like insurance and weather and hurricanes and some buildings tumbling down, which may be unattractive to some. But, I mean, Florida's got a lot of stuff going on, but still, it's up 30 days. It's up from 68 to 75. That's a lot. A similar increase, just a couple more. A similar increase is happening in two other areas in Florida. The share of unsold homes in Tampa, beautiful place, has been on the market for 30 days is 68%, up from 61, and in Jacksonville, 69 from 62 in the same period. when you give buyers more options, that means they have more bargaining power. And you just said that. The more houses that come on the market, the competition is less for the buyers. It's heating up for the sellers, because they're gonna address the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you notice, excuse me, if you notice homes for sale linger on the market for longer in your area, there's probably an opportunity to get a property for under its listed price. I mean, there's truth to that. If you make it into the home inspection process, this is another argument that's specific to being real estate, being a realtor. If you make it to the home inspection process and you learn about issues that were neither noticeable during the initial walkthrough or disclosed, which can happen because you don't know everything that's going on, it may be worth asking the home seller to do repairs. What they're saying is the seller wants to sell probably a little more than you want to buy because you've got more options than they have buyers. And so you can ask for more. So that's pretty common in our business. Anyway, so if a home seller needs to move this year due to upcoming life changes, and that's who's moving, you're getting a divorce, life change, a family change, empty nesters, school, whatever. I mean, it can be any number of things. Like I said, the elective home buying just hasn't, the recreational stuff isn't quite as common as it used to be. For the ultra rich it is, but not for the rest of us. If a home seller needs to move this year due to upcoming life changes and their areas experiencing high levels of unsold listings, they may need to be prepared to cut the asking price to draw interest. In the bottom line, I'm not talking to anybody in particular here, but the bottom line in the last sentence in this article is price cuts sell homes. All right. So let's just, do you mind if I go through a couple of charts?
No.
So here's two that I thought were interesting. What I've done is I pulled out the numbers from Redfin, again, good company, for the nationwide, and then local to us in Nashville, not Williamson County, but Nashville. That's a little more, yeah. So here we go. Bing, this and that. Bing. Okay. So here's the national market overview. Median home prices are up 439. So prices, they're still going up. But just 5%. And remember what it was a few years ago, Rodney? It was like a lot more than that. Number of houses sold. The number of houses sold is down 1.2%. So that's showing us that inventory buildup. That's what that's about. The national fixed rate on mortgages is 7.1. It's plus or minus. Here we go. The number of homes sold is up 13. This is national. It's up 13%, almost 14% from a year ago. Oh. Excuse me. I'm going to do something here. Can't get rid of that. Number of homes for sale, 1.7 million. Newly listed, 652,000. Median days on market, 32. That's no change to what they're saying. But the number of the newly listed, I neglected that, was up almost 9%. 2 months of supply hasn't changed much. Housing demand, homes sold above list price, this is national, is down 2.4%. So things are slowing down. Homes with price drops, 19%, 6% year over year plus. That's a lot of houses that are cutting prices. And the sale to list is 99.1 or 99.9, where it used to be houses were selling like 102, 103, 104%. In Williamson County, it was $20,000 and $30,000. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the median price is always a little tricky because as the rates get higher, there's less money financed, which means that number should be going lower. I think the median, other than the median price, um, I like seeing the numbers increase. We've got to have some inventory increases like this for months on end when these rates turn and won't give us a state. You know, so I love the numbers.
Yep. So let's look at Nashville real quick. I'm sorry, I was just distracted for the second there. The median sale price is up 8% year over year in the Nashville market. Number of homes sold is down 0.62, so that's call that flat. Median days on market is up 5 year over year to 47. Then we've got sale to list price, so it's dropped less than 1%, 0.42. It's down. The homes sold above list price is down 1.8. Homes with price drops 28%. It's up almost 5%. And the reason I bring all of those things up is it just goes to show that things are slowing down big time. They're just slowing down big time, but they're not crashing. There's nothing I would say earth-shattering about those things, but there are indicators that are saying it's slowing down, wouldn't you say?
Kinda. It's if the inventory's building up, um, is it more inventory coming to the market, or is it less people buying? What's the and it's a combination of some, but I think it's more about, instead of less people buying, I think it's more about there's more people adding properties, obviously,
Yeah.
than people buying, or else increases. That's kind of a stupid statement.
Oh no.
I don't think it's because I think it's a good sign, is the way I'm taking it, because I don't feel like it's push from the golden handcuffs or a tsunami, the silver tsunami happening. I think this is just people that are.
I think in the end, I think if there was to be a positive taken from this, and I think it's positive too, but let's say that we've got inventory that's starting to build up. All right, so the consumer has more choices. That means there's downward pressure. It's not skyrocketing, not doing that rocket ship thing. What happens when prices do adjust? When interest rates do adjust, and they do, and a rate cut is to happen, and inflation is less of an issue. They're talking about perhaps 3% will be acceptable rather than 2%. Who knows what they're going to do ultimately? But all of a sudden, what if more buyers were willing to come to the market because it was favorable in terms of interest rates? Well, if we have more inventory, there's going to be less upward pressure on those homes overall. Wouldn't that be right?
Yeah, we have to have more inventory for us to have a balanced market, especially when rates come back. You need to always need you always need an abundance of choices, or else you're going to get to the multiple offer situation,
Yeah.
and that doesn't do anything but drive up prices for the people who can afford to pay more, give up more exceptions, and this, that, and the other to make a deal look better. So yes, I mean it definitely helped the upward pressure on the price.
Got it. Now, that being said, because we're talking about people staying off the market, can we jump into the our zero down mortgages making a comeback?
Oh, 100%, yes.
That
Yes.
was the next thing. I'll show you how this. I just thought it was such an interesting topic because all they're trying to do, and I get it, is there seems to be an available market where they may find this attractive. So, Rodney, it's your show. Tell me about this.
Yes. Let's see. It's I'm trying to pull up the article here about are the zero down mortgages making a comeback? Well, Yes. The simple answer to that's yes. We do have a couple of good 100% products outside the ones that we're talking about here, but um, what the article says, many Americans are struggling to afford a home. Today's typical down payments of 56,000 presents a major obstacle, right? So, one of the nation's largest mortgage lenders is trying to lower that barrier, announcing a new zero down mortgage program last month. It aims to help more borrowers without an upfront payment. So this program here, under the program, qualifying borrowers will receive 3% down payment assistance for up to $15,000. The loan that you borrow for the $15,000 does accrue interest or require a monthly payment on that. It just needs to be paid off when the loan is sold or person refinances. What it Now, before everybody thinks, oh, there's going to be a rush, a flood, whatever, but the 0% really doesn't move the needle when it comes to having homes, because one is been harder to control. Like you're financing 100% of the purchase price versus
Right.
80%.
Right. So naturally, your
and then
payment's going up.
typically, like the programs discussed here, I am betting that if you compared it to a regular FHA mortgage, and the interest rate would be a little bit higher because it's more of a risk to take to 100%. So your even rates are higher than the normal rate on that because the risk of a 0% down mortgage is higher, so therefore the price is higher. So
And there's zero equity, right? You'd have zero
yes,
equity.
and that was one of the downsides. It said, what are the cons of it? And it said the biggest downside to a zero down loan is the homeownership starts with no equity. Which means a downturn in the housing market could put them underwater, owing more than their home is worth. I will say this: when I'm looking at buying a primary, I'm not looking at instant equity or the equity in 4 or 5 years, because to me, a first-time home buyer is more about getting this process started of home ownership.
Yes.
And fixing their cost. Like they have fixed their rent cost now, or their home ownership cost to some extent, versus if you're renting, you haven't fixed it.
Correct.
And then it says, which means a downturn in the housing market. It also could be an upswing in the housing market, which you could immediately get a lot of equity as well. So I don't see that as in this article does, but I do think that when you do these zero downs, you're generally going to pay a higher interest rate, which really gets you. It's kind of like, you can't. So that's kind of the bad part about it. However, there are very good regular programs that zero down. The USDA is one. People call it Farmers Home Loan. Used to RD. This called RD loan. And, veteran loan, VA. And Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac has 3% down loans. Sometimes, a lot of times in these zero down programs, although that if it's your only option, it can be a very good option. Just do a regular FHA loan and maybe get a gift. Come out a lot better on the long term by having your own down payment.
Yeah. Well, and I have to agree. The article mentions something about this, but having been through it, when I hear zero down, or in particular no doc loans and stuff like that, and we've had a conversation about that a while back, it does remind me of the crash back in 08, because that's what money was flying around just crazy, but for anybody that hears zero down and thinks 2008, there is no, there's no equal, there's no comparison with that, is what I'm trying to spit out. There's no comparison with that because the way that buyers are vetted now is completely different, in my opinion. Not a lender, would you agree with that?
Yes, it is. Any of these zero down payment loans are considered a qualified mortgage, a QM loan, which is going into the Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie Mae pool. That's market, things like that. So yes, these bars will be screened. You're going to have to do the debt ratio. You're going to have to do all. It's not it's not one of those old loans that did, because the interest rate might be just a hair higher, which makes your payment go up, makes it harder to afford, and then financing everything, which again adds to your monthly expense, which makes it harder to qualify for.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, zero down, and you probably said this, I just maybe missed it, but for anybody that's buying zero down, you plan to stay in that place for 6-7 years. I mean, 5 years minimum. It's just, you got to let that equity build. And we just saw on the current equity rates, or meaning the value growth was 5%. It's not huge. Those are not huge numbers.
But if you look at somebody who has a $200,000 house,
yeah,
and 5%, it's going to be what? And so it's like,
yeah,
did they save 10 grand? You know what I'm saying? Or did the 10 grand equity, help them with their other investments that they had? So 5% is not shabby.
No. It's just that I'm stuck with. I can't help but remember a few years ago when it was outrageous. I mean, it's just not. It's back to more what I would call normal. I'm going to call that normal-ish. That's what I call it. Okay, so for our final thought, and you notice how these things they tend to blend together. That's my whole goal anyway. And we're talking about competition. Nobody's buying. Zero down. They're looking for buyers to make it easier for them to get in the market. That's the reason for that. The next thing is millennials complain a little bit about boomers and how easy we had it back in the day buying houses. Well, when you break down the numbers, that's not so much the case. Let me do something here. Whoops.
I feel like this is our days of our lives section of the show.
No. Oh, look at this. How about this? Hang on. Bing. Okay, good. That still works. My lights went out. I don't know why. Okay, so boomers didn't have it easier than millennials buying their first homes. I got that. Good. Okay. Just as they entered the market hoping to buy their first homes, typical mortgage payments soared. Amid rampant inflation, home prices had shot up more than 60% in 4 years, and mortgage rates surged to the highest level, soap opera, in recent memory. No, these young prospective home buyers weren't millennials. They were baby boomers. And the year was 1980 when mortgage rates topped 16%. Can you imagine? 16%. And the average monthly home loan payment jumped 34% from a year earlier. Those figures come from Realtor.com, analysis of historical home prices. Millennials, perhaps bitter over the economic havoc wreaked by the 27 global financial crisis, just as they entered the workforce, have long complained that boomers had it easy. Houses were cheaper, jobs were plentiful, and college tuition could be paid off with a summer job. That's probably partially true right there. According to the common wisdom of Reddit, be careful of that. There's limited, Reddit is maybe not the best place to go. But according to our historical analysis, boomers arguably faced the toughest housing market ever. I think I just did incorrectly. Three for first-time home buyers. During the years when boomers turned 30, here we go, the share of median household income needed to make the typical mortgage payment was 33.2%, the highest of any living generation. What is it supposed to be now, Rodney?
Well, I mean, if a housing expense,
Yeah, I mean, what's
29,
this
30%.
29 or 30%? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
In contrast, millennials on average faced the lowest mortgage burdens thanks to a decade of ultra low interest rates. That's a tough one to get. That's tough. That is tough. We're not, we're not, we're not. I think I am. Actually, I'm not sure I'm comfortable. I like admitting that. I know you're not. I know you're not, Ron. But hey, I'm still here. Where's James Taylor when you need him? In contrast, millennials average face the lowest, thanks to a decade of ultra low interest rates. For millennials turning 30, the typical mortgage burden averaged just 22%. Is that right? That seemed kind of light. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's right. I mean, that would be a good number.
Golly, that's wow. Versus what you can tolerate, because I know you can, according to you guys, I mean, people can tolerate, consider, still get a loan and be quite a bit higher than that. So,
Yes.
um,
But
so
what the front ratio, just your divided by your income,
mhm.
like your full house payment and everything divided by your gross monthly income, that's what number they're talking about. So they don't have all their debts in that full percentage. It's just their housing expense.
Okay. All right. So here's the big punchline question is who had it worse? Mortgage payment. Who had it worse? Mortgage payment as share of income for each generation. First time home buyers. Here we go. Here it comes. Bang. All right. Back in the blue, that was the silent generation, World War II, right? Those guys. Boomers, green, it's going to be me, like it or not. They were the highest. I mean, that is pretty high up in there. Then we've got X, right? Yes. Orange, yes. And then
These
millennial,
people this is turning 30,
correct?
right, during your purchase, during your generation. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And so, and I guess the only reason I thought it was interesting is I didn't actually know that. I didn't know that baby boomers back then, with the confluence of, lower wages, higher prices for homes, relatively speaking, that they had it tough. So I didn't know. I had to agree with the millennials. You guys had it easy. Apparently not. So today, millennials entering the housing market for the first time have a legitimate right to gripe, and I agree with this analyst Hannah Jones. Though today's housing market is not the least affordable in history, it is the least affordable in 40 years and suffers from low inventory. That's what we've been talking about for weeks, months. Buyers in today's market face high prices, high rates, and low levels of affordable inventory, making it exceptionally challenging to purchase a home as a first-time buyer. Here's a couple of, you have any thoughts on this?
No, it's right on track.
Okay. If millennials had it easy, why didn't they buy more? Why didn't more of them buy homes? And I thought this was interesting. I'm going to catch up here.
I did too.
Sorry,
Yeah.
people who think they're just most of us didn't have it easy. Correct. I'm going to put that one up because she's my people. Most of it didn't have it easy. Remember our first part? We slept on comforters on the floor to save. Oh man. I remember early on when we moved into a duplex, my elderly neighbor told me they bought their house for $10,000. Jeez Louise. Wow, that's cheap. Inexpensive, not cheap. It is true that U.S. home prices have consistently outpaced inflation as far back as reliable data exists. In 2024, dollars adjusted for inflation using consumer price index, median home prices average $193 over the years, the silent generation, the first far left, compared to 227 for the boomers. 227 median, huh? 279 for Gen X. Now these are inflationary adjusted, so the 10,000 is in there someplace. 310 for millennials so far. So it's, it is more expensive. In other words, inflation adjusted home prices grew 18% for boomers from prior generations, 23 for Gen X, and 14% for millennials. Okay, all right. Anyway, Here we go. Here's it, but the question that I was left with is, if by these statistics and these numbers, if millennials had it comparatively easy, and I'm not saying it is actually easy, but it's a comparison of apples and apples, what we're hoping to do. The question is, why didn't they buy more homes? And I thought this was spot on. For the oldest millennials, the very phenomenon that delivered ultra low interest rates as they turned 30, the Great Recession, 2008 and so forth, also provided powerful incentives against home buying, says David Clark, Marquette University. They got into their 30s at the worst possible time for buying a home. You're coming out of a Great Recession. You got weak labor market as a consequence. They're saddled with some pretty significant college debt. And finally, this was not a smart time to buy a home when prices were going down. Following the 2007 financial crisis, I mean, I'm telling you, prices continued to fall annually until 2012. I remember every minute of that, according to the Case-Shiller Home Price Index. With no way to know when prices would stabilize, buying a home during that period would have seemed incredibly risky for millennials, even if it now seems like a wise move in retrospect. A truer statement was never said, I think.
Yeah, I've just never seen, I haven't heard of this so much of I'm going to rent the rest of my life and invest like the difference. And like he was talking about there, I haven't seen that a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons
Grant
that
Cardone's talking about that, right?
Do what?
Grant Cardone is talking about that rent for life stuff. Is that right?
I believe it was either that article or another article, why millennials, when they hit the market, the job market wasn't very good, inflation was high, and so it seemed like renting was a better option in a declining home value. But I guess my point is that that guy was saying that a reason to not buy is to rent and use the difference between whatever rent and whatever monthly payment you think you might have had or whatever, and invest. I've just always seen, for me, the people who the best path to wealth was through home ownership. I haven't seen many rich day traders renting, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not making fun of it, but people say that, but I just don't see it. I mean, I don't run around with people like that. I mean, almost everybody, wants to own a home versus like that's not their plan. I don't know people who that is a plan. Do you? I mean, just to forever rent?
I don't, and I wish I did know people that were, in terms of wealth creation, having, like you said, day traders, because that's what makes it look like home into a portfolio of stocks and bonds. That's what it makes it sounds like, somebody's just a trader, as opposed to being involved in the stocks. I don't know. And it almost seems like his argument, though I think it's legitimate, is in a sort of a vacuum. I don't know what's the real situation for millennials in trying to buy a house. I mean, it's expensive. It's just expensive. A $500,000 house now it's expensive. It just
Right.
is. And you got to have a
And
darn good job to cover that.
yeah, and he, you know, one of his points was, you know, like they feel like they can pick up and move. Like you know, if you were living here, you could pick up. If you're renting, you could pick up and move to Washington, you know, wherever, and get higher wages. But like I said, I just don't see it a whole lot. I see the kind of the American dream. I want to own a house, and then, you know,
I
that sort of path.
but I had seen that argument. It was probably somewhere, I don't know, 6 months or a year ago. The argument was, or the thought, and I don't think it's a bad one. They're talking about millennials, the younger people in real estate, and with the market and the world, the economics the way they are. What their argument was, for some people, if you haven't found that down the middle, that job that is a career for you, if you haven't found that career, to be mobile is perhaps a good choice. And that's what I think he's talking about. Because
Yeah,
until you're talking, if you can just up and quit the pizza delivery or whatever, it can be digital design, who knows. But you quit, I'm moving to Tampa, or I'm moving to Washington or Boise or whatever, in search of that career. That kind of makes sense. Because if you're just
yeah,
working 3 or 4 jobs to make ends meet, trying to buy a house, I don't know that that's a good choice.
yeah. Makes sense.
That's just
I
that
think
was just
Philip's got a question here.
yes. Let's see what this is. I was circling back. Is the argument that they deserve more help to buy houses because otherwise? What does that mean?
Is that first time home buyers?
I'm not sure. Is
Um,
is pardon me. We had an argument about Blackstone last week, and they're jumping back in. I'm going to say I don't care, because they're not having as much of an impact as what most of us thought. That was last week's show, I think, is what we were talking about, right?
yeah, I mean, um, I can't go against a. Now, I don't think it's what's best for the industry, but I also don't think that our government can tell its citizens that they can't band together and buy investment properties either. So, yeah, I mean, I wish they weren't. I wish it was all for first time home buyer, or, you know, for regular buyers. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a communist. Think it's good, but
Don't
I
quit your
don't. You know,
capitalist.
I wouldn't want to be Blackstone and somebody tell me I couldn't get back in.
Yeah, and that just tells me if they're getting back in, they're gonna. I think it boils down to one of two things. Seems to me, either they're seeing home values increasing in the future. Either they see that, or on the flip side, they see more renters. There's a larger pool of renters, people that simply can't buy a house, so they're stuck with renting. So either way, with those guys, those are two
I
options.
think both of those things are right. You know, I mean, I think they're right on both accounts. I think there's going to be more renters, and you know, I
Values are
think
going to
values
go
will
up.
continue to increase. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got me stumped on this one, Phil. Is the argument that they deserve more help to buy houses? I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I'm assuming that's the first time home buyer, the grants and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Ah, yes. Either way, it'll work out for them. That's correct. And, God bless America. It'll work out. I think she's talking about Blackstone for that, but I, you know, I, we need buyers. So, I mean, they're okay. So, should we tackle this last one, or should we wait till next week on that?
Your call. Now let's do
You're
our
saying
call.
you're saying let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is the one you were gonna. Okay, here's the deal, and this will be kind of short and sweet.
Honestly, if you want to run through the article real quick, I just like the comments.
Okay, here we get. The article is real estate agents are facing a reckoning. And I can tell you from the inside, I won't get too specific, but um, the bottom line is there's big changes coming in the real estate industry based on the NAR settlement. It's just it's just a few rule changes, but they're having a big impact, and there's a lot of confusion in the market. And the bottom line is that agents are going to have to be much better at selling themselves as an agent worth the dollar versus boomers. Why does it matter? I have to move on with this. There's just a lot of confusion in the market, and it. How do you sum this up in 2 minutes? It's we've got hundreds of thousands of people asking the same question: is how am I going to get paid? How am I going to tell what my value is? How am I going to convince people that buyer agents are worth it? Because that's kind of what it comes down to, really.
Right.
And then you got sellers on the other side that are going to, and this is the way I see it. Whereas in the past, sellers it was the seller and the broker cut a deal for the commission, and then the broker, the listing agent's company, shared that with the buyer agent on the other side. Now it's going to be sellers negotiating with buyers. The brokers are out of it, other than typing it up. What's going to happen is the commissions now are going to be line items in the contract with big numbers attached, that the sellers are going to look at that and go, $15,000 is a lot of money. Can we do anything about that? They're going to see that differently. And that's just, I think, is going to be the wild, wild west for a while. And so here's the point. I mean, that's the big picture of what's coming on. The agents that can handle this pressure will survive, and they'll probably, in my opinion, it is going to be the biggest opportunity that's come along in our industry for decades, because there's going to be so many that are not used to buyer presentations and are not used to promoting their value and are not used to actually carrying people along in the process and gaining trust from their knowledge and experience. Because
Right.
it's going to be much harder, Andy's opinion, it's going to be much harder for a new agent to come in and go, I'm the guy you need. That's going to be a tougher deal.
Yes.
So go ahead, Ronnie.
I mean, it's just going to be a different conversation where it's about, these are the ways that I can get paid. And it's just, and nobody likes to talk about that. Like, I would hate to have to tell working for a bank or a mortgage company that, how I have to tell how I get paid, but, you know, that's what they're saying is going to create the big brouhaha, is that what are people going to do, and they're not prepared for it. But I think selling agents, buyers agents, are going to present just like they have, and they've just now got to explain in a better light what they do and how they get paid.
Well, and we've been saying for months that the market's going to figure it out. That the market will bear it out. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. That's my point.
Yes.
So I'll make one more point, and then we get to the comments, because we're right on time. Look at us. The real estate agent profession, and this is a prediction a lot of people are making, doesn't make it right, but there's a lot of agreement. The real estate agent profession is experiencing a downturn, with the number of real estate brokers and sales agents dropping in 2023 compared to pre-pandemic times. That was wild, wild west back then. According to the Federal Reserve economic data, there were 440,000 people working as real estate agents in the U.S. in 2023. I have no idea where they get that number. It's 1.5. they must be looking at a different category, but down from 549. So where they're pulling from, it's down to 440 from 549. The next thing they say is the U.S. housing market will take time to digest, well put, the changes brought forward by the settlement and the promises made by the group. Digest is a really, I could finish that, but I won't.
Yes.
Hit me with your comments. So the reason Roddy's so excited, he's going to read the comments on what this article made people think about. Hit me.
Yeah, well, yeah, here we go. Starting off with mushy waffles. Okay, so mushy waffles. Getting paid 8% is criminal. Selling a 300 versus 600K house is the same amount of work. You should not be compensated based on price. Agents should get a flat fee based on area to compensate for differences in cost of living per area. Okay, mushy waffles has no, like, he should be on a different site, right? When you selling a 300 versus 600, the paperwork may be the same. Your customers are different. There's a lot of differences in every single house, no matter what the price. Your sellers are different. The neighborhood's different. Everything's different. So nothing is. And by the way, getting percent is not a criminal offense. Getting paid a percentage is not a criminal. Now we got John Trapp. They saying, okay, buyers are already in a band together and demand a 2.5 commission from the buyers. No negotiations will be allowed. How does this settlement benefit the buyer if the increase to cost a home by 2.5 over the sales price? Okay.
First, I've got to interject before you go on. I want you to finish, but I got to interject. That is the purest form of collusion ever to be stated, and we're just reading comments from the end of an article. So let me just say that and be clear.
John Trapp made this name up because he's fixing to be trapped in some kind of crazy lawsuit. So the whole county, he's talked to 6 people, and they're all going to band together and do 2.5%. It's just how crazy some people say. And then he said the buyer should be able to assist the buyer with any needed items on his end. That ain't what attorneys do, but they do assist in all the documents and stuff like that. They should allow the buyer to directly contact the selling homeowner to negotiate the sales price and eliminate the buyer's agent altogether. That is the epitome of John Trapp has no clue. He's not in the real estate business. Like,
clearly.
How many people I don't buy houses enough that I would want to do it without a representation, right? And I do loans every day. So yeah. And then I think there was one more good one. This is yes, I like this. When being asked about their industry and being so out of control that they're being regulated, which they're not being asked about it, and they're not out of control. There was a lawsuit, and the lawsuit was settled. They couldn't resist talking about how they were going to exploit home buyers under this new system. Didn't they just get caught in an absurd price fixing cartel? Article I've ever read that talked about how they're going to exploit home buyers. So yeah, I love these comments. That's all I want to jump in there. And the nonsense that's coming from these guys. Yeah, even when that Nicholas Halsey, look at him, he's got a picture of some hairless dog on there. So and the other name is Fluffy Waffles or something.
Mushy waffles.
Yeah. So be careful where you get your advice from. But anyways, I like those comments. They have the right to that opinion. It's all fun, and that's what makes the world go round, is that we differ on opinions, and that I can make fun of their pictures and opinions. But theirs are free, just like my opinion.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you, pardon me, that people are making comments, honest to goodness, no fault of their own, really don't know how things work.
Yes.
I mean, when you talk about buyers and sellers negotiating together, I mean, if that were to happen, there'd be a crack in the sidewalk and the deal is off. That's it. No
Yeah.
deal. There's fog in that glass. I'm out of here. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, I just don't get on many sites and interject my expertise into information technologies, when I can barely open my iPhone. So,
Oh man, there's a couple of comments I couldn't get to. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, so Rodney, listen, thank you very much. Ange, Philip, Wendy, thank you. You guys are just the best. Thank you for that. Any final thoughts there, Rodney?
no, great job. I appreciate all you do. It's a fun show, and glad you got these articles together. That's a good one.
That was fun. All right, everybody, we will see you later. Have a good week. See you next Tuesday. Bye bye.